Good evening. Welcome to Age of Quarantine. How's everybody doing? Yay! We're still alive and we're hanging out. And this lighting makes me look really strange. How's everybody doing? Welcome to Age of Quarantine. My name's Artie. And I will be your host this evening. And I have a very, very special guest. Somebody who I'm very, very old friends with and know him through the hardcore scene in New York. And his name is Justin Borucki. He is he was a very well-known photographer back in the day to all of us. He's probably filmed or shot many shows that I played personally, and also done like promo shots and stuff like that as well. But he does a lot of magazine editorial stuff. He does tintype. He's a super human who deals with 6 children now, or 4 or 5 or something like that. So we're gonna get Justin on in a sec, Mr. Kabooks.
Yes, we're going live with Justin Borucki. Work, goddammit. Oh, I don't know if they're not gonna be allowed. Hey, what's up, buddy?
What's up, brother?
Oh man, I was worried.
Yo.
What?
No, go ahead.
I was worried I was gonna have another old guy episode. I don't know how to use this thing.
I don't know what I'm doing over here. Wait. Should I do like this the whole time? Hey guys.
It's happened.
I've been my wife's setup. There's a beauty light here, but it's not turning on, so you just have to have an ugly face.
Yeah, dude, I was gonna say, man.
Maybe I'll just do this.
You could probably just fucking set up your whole room with and look like Kim Kardashian or something, you know?
Hey, I'm beautiful with the natural room light, right? How's it going, brother?
Good, man. Good. How are you?
Good, man. I can't complain too much. I feel like hot garbage. I got my COVID shot yesterday.
Oh shit.
So yeah, man. It fucking. I'm not gonna complain about it, but I just feel like crap. So I'm putting on a smile.
No, give me a little detail. Like, how do you feel like crap? What's it?
Well, I would say after the first dosage, it was like I felt like I had the flu the next day.
Okay.
Today, I just feel like all my injuries have been re-injured. Like my back is killing me, my ankle's killing me. Just feel sluggish and a little stupid too. I was trying to clean up and I was walking around holding. It's still not put away. I was walking around trying to put this. I don't know what I'm doing. So
Just start wrapping
it's still right here. I still didn't put it away. Yeah, so it's just I just got me a little dumb today, or dumber than normal. So,
Well, I'm glad you got your second shot and you're fully protected out
yeah.
there on your farm.
And I'm drinking a giant Jack and Coke in a big tin cup.
Well, cheers, my friend. We used to do this a lot back in the day.
I know.
So for those of you who don't know Justin or might not be sure who exactly he is, he was a photographer that I knew from back in the day shooting shows, but he has gone on since to do many other things and to teach himself how to do tintype, which we'll get into. And you were always head and shoulders above the other photographers around, and it's like you were one of the first people to sort of like I watched like use lighting and all this other shit, because you were always shooting really young bands who like didn't know shit, and it'd be like, hey Justin, can you shoot us please, we don't know what the hell we're doing, and you'd always make everybody look fucking awesome. And so it was like you definitely became the man in demand for us stupid young bands, but you were also doing these like big shit as well, which was great, which is where you made your actual money. So I wanted to ask you, like, first of all, where'd you grow up?
Staten Island, New York.
I mean, I know that. I'm just saying, for the interview's sake.
I know you know that.
and so how did you get into photography? Did you get into punk rock and hardcore first, or did you get into photography and then you got into the music? Like, how did it all sort of formulate itself?
Punk rock and hardcore first. I uh, I found photography accidentally in high school. I took a photography class. I was trying to fill a schedule. At the time, they had something that's called like a Regents in Art. So like I had like a ton of art classes to take, and photography was the second to last class that was available that I could take. And I took it my junior year, and it was like that with pottery. I'm like, all right, I'll do photography now. I don't want to do pottery. And I totally fell in love with it. Yeah, it was life changing for me. Like in the darkroom, like the very first print I made, like I just fell in love with the process. And even before that, I enjoyed taking the pictures, but it was the darkroom process that actually, closed the deal for me. And at that time, I was applying for art school, and at that time that I started this class, um, I was about to, submit the application. So it was just like, fuck it, I'm gonna study photography, and I just dove into it. But it took a good few years before I started bringing my cameras to hardcore shows because I just wanted to hit and stuff like that. Um, and
Yeah. So
it was
like,
actually
what inspired you though? Like, so you were like, were you like into the scene on Staten Island where you're like hanging out with John Lisa and fucking, you Mike D and like,
yeah, of course, of course. I mean, those guys are a little bit older than me, so at the time, I wasn't, I was hanging out with kids my age, but as I got older, I got, more, closer with those guys as well. But like when you're 17, and I guess they're a few years old, or even 14. No, I started taking pictures around 14. Whatever. Any case, yeah, like I started taking my camera to like ska shows and crap like that, stuff that like I didn't really care about dancing to. So I started shooting those shows, and then I started shooting some local Staten Island shows, and that was a lot of fun. And it was actually I always say this, and I feel like I'm embarrassing when I say this, but I went to art school with Angela Boatwright, and she's like,
what?
take your camera. She used to always like yell at me to take my camera to the punk shows. I'm like, I just want to have fun. I don't worry about a camera. I don't want to do that. And it was one particular show. It was a Rancid, a Veil, and the Queers at Wetlands, and it was either 2000 and I think it was 94 actually. It was like 94, and that was the first punk show, like or national show, like with a big band. First show I brought my camera to, and I had so much fun. And from that point on, I didn't leave my camera at home. Any show I went to, I always had my camera. So I traded, Hit for a camera.
And I'm sure Angela was right next to you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's awesome. And Angela's somebody I want to have on here as well because she's definitely amazing. And like some of the
Yeah.
shit, some of the shots she would get, like in the situation she was in, she was like fucking crazy, man. So this kind of brings
Yeah.
me to so you're shooting shows. Like, what was like? Did anything get like so crazy? Did you ever break a camera? Did you ever like have an issue like with that it was just too crazy and you were like, fuck this, I can't do it? Or were you just like, fuck it, boom,
No.
fuck it, boom?
Yeah, no, it was never that crazy. It's just, I mean, when you know the music, you know what's coming, so you know what to, make sure your both eyes are open, and you're kind of looking around. There's a few shows here and there that, there was some close calls, but luckily I never broke anything at a show. Occasional flash got knocked off the camera, but not broken. Um, Excuse me. Yeah, believe it or not, I haven't broken anything at a show. It would always
What?
be broken afterwards when I was too drunk to put things away.
Well,
I dropped the camera.
So is that like part of the key to being a great live photographer, not just for hardcore, but for anything, is to be familiar with what's coming. Because, like,
It helps. It definitely
in
helps.
hardcore, it's like, you want to get that shot of Walter Schreifels doing a jump, like, or you want, you know what I mean? Like obviously, like, especially for bands you would go on tour with, like, you would learn when things were going to happen in a show.
Exactly, yeah. Especially when you're on tour, when there's a routine sort of. But I mean, generally speaking, when even if you're listening to music that you haven't heard before, you kind of get a feel of what's going on. You catch you catch the energy of what the guitarist or the singer's doing. You kind of tell that they kind of get amped up for something. Where the song's going. And, I'm not a musician at all, and that's also something else that also brought me to taking pictures is I did back then I did want to contribute to the local scene, and being that I couldn't play any music, I wanted to help out, so I would do pictures for people. So
right.
Like I said, I went off track there.
No, not at all, not at all. It's just I'm just interested in, like, if you ever went into a show with, like, okay, like if you just showed up and you did your thing. You never, like, had a plan or, like, knew what you were gonna do before you went in, right? Like, I mean,
For a show, no, not really.
Unless you, like, later on when you had specific editorial duties to take care of, then obviously you would, like, make sure that you were taking care of it. So, like, what? All right, give me this. What was the? You can give me a top 3 craziest shows, or just one. Like, what was the show? Like, give me some fucking good stories.
Good stories. Well, actually, I'd probably say that Rancid show which was the first punk show that I brought my camera to. That was probably the most intense because they have the shorter stage there, so like the crowd was just surging, like it was just like constantly being pushed up against the stage. So everyone who's at the front of that stage is basically trying to keep everyone who is behind you from coming onto the stage. So you just kind of like push back, and then you're on the stage when you're not even trying to be on the stage. So it's just like a constant, if I'm taking pictures, it's a constant, like, engagement with your entire body to keep down,
right,
and keeping, whatever boots being thrown over you and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't think I have any crazy stories. In fact, I think Dead Guy was one of the guitar players from Dead Guy was trying to kill me at one time. But that's a common story, apparently.
Yeah. No, I
heard recently. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, I saw him take out many a person standing on the side of the stage. Keith Huckins.
Yeah.
One of my
there's
heroes.
definitely. Yeah, there was definitely, like, I got that, like, I'm gonna go over there now, because, like, I'll be shooting and I would just hear the of the guitar or the bass or the head whizzing past my ear. I'm like, I wouldn't even see it. I was just like, what was that? I'm like, oh God, he's trying to kill me.
It was funny because I saw Tim
So it was
Singer.
coming super close.
I saw Tim Singer on here. I don't know if he's still on here, but it was like, speaking of Dead Guy. So I mean that's awesome, and like it's what bands did you tour with? Because I know you went on tour with a bunch of bands. Thursday, right? My Chem.
Yep.
Like, tell me a little bit about that. Like, what were you doing specific jobs, or did you just go out? And
kind of a little bit of both. I would try to work something around the tour. The first time I went out with Thursday, I was working for Revolver magazine. I was a photo editor at the time. Excuse me. Burp. Sorry. I need food. We did a feature shoot with the band, like just portraits. And I was like, hey, let me hop. You got nothing going on. Like, if you have any room, I'll ride with you guys and we'll just shoot some more pictures, And I just, rode with him for, a handful of dates and took the bus home, So a lot of times it was stuff like that. Sometimes it was a road story, where a writer and a photographer go on the road with band, and we would just shoot. So uh, we've done stuff with AFI, Coheed and Cambria, uh, Taking Back Sunday. Did I? Yeah, Taking Back Sunday. Um, Lamb of God. There's a bunch of them, and then of course a lot of them were like, let's say, Warped Tours or any kind of festival tours. I would bus hop, and like jump between Glassjaw, Taking Back Sunday, Thursday, Poison. Well, I remember, yeah, that was like 2003. I bus hopped just so I wasn't imposing on anyone for too long, and just
Yeah.
kind of jump between buses for a while, and it got tiresome. I don't know how those guys do it all summer long.
Yeah,
It's fucking
I was
miserable.
gonna say, like, what? Yeah, well, like, what was your experience with all that traveling and like being in the band? Obviously, you didn't have your own space, so like,
No.
that's one inconvenience. But as a photographer, did you find it more interesting to have that kind of access, and like you could really get these candid shots that were like your
Yeah,
shots
it was
your shots of Gerard Way are fucking amazing. Like, there's so many
Thank
great
you,
shots
sir.
of him. I mean, he's a very interesting character, so he's a good subject, obviously, and you know that
He
very
is.
well. And you're really good at
Yeah.
picking good subjects. But like, yeah, like some of the shots, those are my favorite shots of yours. Are the ones where they're just like backstage or on the bus or like hanging out, because you're a great hang. So I'm sure that like everybody was just like, oh, Borucki's here, all right, cool, whatever. Like you weren't really there. It was like, you were just
Yeah, we were
hanging
just
out.
hanging
Oh,
out.
take a picture.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's like that's really special, because like a lot of that shit went down in, like, say, like the classic rock era. Like you had the Linda Eastmans and like people like that who were always around, had access. I don't really feel like it was weird, because I don't think a lot of people, I mean, you happened to hang out with a bunch of bands that got really big before they got really big.
Yeah.
And then so you were invited
Yeah.
when they were really big. And it's a special thing to be invited into those situations. I know that from being in a band myself. And like it was always, I remember being around you backstage, and like you were always shooting, but you were very respectful about it. And it's I think that's done you a lot of good over the years, for sure. I mean, it's cool, and like it says a lot about what a cool person you are. So
Thank you, sir.
yeah, it's it definitely, like, I always love that. Like, whenever you and Boatwright were around at a show, it was like, all right, cool, this is going to be a good show because these guys are here, and that means something cool's that means the show's actually going to be good.
No, it's good because you guys are good. That's how it works.
Yeah.
But I'll take the compliment. I'm like, yeah, cool, man, thanks. But no,
Well,
it was like just in anything you do, like good people want to be around good people. I want to, if like I'm fortunate to do something that I love for a living, and I'm going to enjoy myself while I do it. So therefore, I'm going to be myself, and I want the person that I'm working with, or the people that I'm working with, to have a good time as well. So like sometimes when you tour with a band that you don't know prior, or spend a lot of time with a band that you don't know prior, it's a little tricky, because you kind of have to, like, you don't want to, like, dive into it and, like, be all gung-ho with the camera. So you just kind of have to ease into it and find that balance too. Because like, say I mentioned AFI, I didn't know those guys. No, actually, I photographed a few of them here and there, but like I didn't know those guys beforehand. And it was a road story, and we actually didn't ride with them. We followed them. So we rented a car and we followed them for a handful of dates out on the West Coast. So we didn't really have a good opportunity to get to know those guys. The first few days were a little awkward, like kind of like around like, oh my god, fucking camera, like I felt like an alien. I felt like I didn't belong, so and I think in the last day is like when they kind of like warmed up to me, so I was able to take more pictures and get more good material on that day. So I mean, I could have just dove in and just like took loads and loads of pictures, but everyone would have been like,
right.
who the fuck is this guy?
I mean, I
you
think
know?
part of the advantage too is that you were from the scene. So like, as you became a bigger photographer, all the bands were getting bigger as well. So,
Yeah.
you know, and then obviously you started working like, so what was your first like official real photography job out of school?
Out of school, the first time I was paid by a magazine, what you remember Smug magazine? It was that
Yeah,
free
yeah.
paper.
Uh-huh.
Shirley Harplin, she hired me to shoot Low. You remember that band?
Yeah, I love them. Yeah.
Uh, and I was underage, and they were playing at the Mercury Lounge, and I couldn't get in. And it was like my very first paid gig outside of the hardcore scene, you know?
Right. Hmm.
And by a magazine also. It was like my very first paid gig. And the guy wouldn't let me in. It was 21 and over. I think I was like 19 or 20. And I'm like, dude, I mean, come on. Like I just need to take pictures of this freaking band. Let me go in for a few songs and I'll leave. Like I had to beg him to let me in.
Yeah.
So I wasn't familiar with the band before I went to this show, and I guess as you know, they're called Low for a reason. They're very very quiet band.
Very mellow. Yeah.
So so in the '90s, you know, you got your old school cameras, manual cameras, like clong. So I'm taking pictures, like clong, clong, and everyone's just like clong. I'm like, Jesus Christ! I felt like such a
That's so
'cause, you
funny.
know,
Wow.
I mean, the
Wow.
camera was so loud. I mean,
It was a fucking learning
it's just
experience.
it was like amplified. It was like there was like a mic on my camera, and they're like playing. Everyone's staring at me like, "Oh Jesus!" I was like, "How can it be like no one else has photographed this band before? Why am I the asshole?" You know?
That's a great story, and you know, and it's something I've never thought about. You know, it's because, I mean, it's a distant memory, a camera that makes noise. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it's like it's so long ago. Um, so you started getting like freelance gigs, and was photography your profession from the get go when you got out of school?
No, it was always kind of a side gig. I always had jobs. Like I got out of art school. I worked at Jimmy Halling's Universe with Mike DiLorenzo. Uh, I worked for a wedding photographer. I worked at the School of Visual Arts for a number of years, and then I went from there to Revolver. So I held full-time jobs up until about, I went freelance 2003. So I haven't had a job since 2003. But all the while I was shooting, you know, in any spare time. And Revolver was awesome because I did a lot of work for the magazine as well. So I was getting paid salary and freelance, which was pretty cool.
Right.
So
Yeah, I mean, that's nice.
yeah, and that was basically my springing board. Like after like working through Revolver, I made a lot of contacts in the music industry, and you know, and yeah, that was a good jumping point. Like I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I thought about it for a good while, but I was just nervous, you know, um, not to have that steady paycheck.
No, I
You know?
remember when you did it, and it was like, I was like, wow, that's crazy because Revolver was like, you know, it's a big deal to, and like you had all this contact, you had all these, you were shooting covers, and like all this crazy shit flying around doing shit, and it was like wow, all right, cool, man, Borucki's feeling
Yeah, it
it.
was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. It was a good job. It was a good job to have.
No, I still deal with Revolver quite often. You actually still shoot for them too, right? Does Jimmy Hubbard call
Yeah,
you
I
every
did.
once in a while?
What's that?
Jimmy Hubbard calls you every once in a while for a gig?
Yeah, I just did a wet plate tintype cover shoot with Rob Zombie. I think it's the current issue right now, actually.
Oh,
I don't
awesome.
think they put out a new issue out, but yeah, the current issue is my zombie,
So,
which is a lot of fun.
so you're you've always all right. I want before we get into the tintype thing, I wanted to discuss because like I have a lot of friends who were photography majors in school, have photography degrees, you know, and it was very 90s to do that, go to art school, get, you know, that degree and whatnot. And it's sort of a difficult degree to have, you know what I mean? It's like, because
Totally useless.
totally useless, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
And like, it was funny, like my friend Karen Zukowski, she, you know, she she went on to, I met her because I worked at Photonica, which is a stock photography agency, and she's a brilliant photographer. And, you know, like, and she, like, you know, she shot shows as well, but she had to work in stock in order to, you know, and not even like taking photos for stock, but like behind the scenes. So like, and everybody that worked at Photonica was a photography major, you know, like the researchers, everybody.
Yeah.
And none of that shit exists anymore. But,
no, I was in Photonica back then too. Do you remember?
Oh shit. Yeah, you were. Fuck.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah,
I don't think I ever made any kind of money from them, but it was just a cool bunch of people hanging out.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. Oh, it was great. It was a great environment. Super cool. I mean, it's like, you know,
yeah,
it was all Japanese and English people, and then like, you know, like fucking totally. I mean, they had beer Fridays, like where you were encouraged to go drink with everybody on Friday afternoon, which was fucking like I was like, what? And this is before I ever went to England, and then like the first time I went to England, I was like, oh, this is normal. This is what they do all the time. In fact, they do this every day. But anyway, like, it's still frowned upon in America. But the invention of like, and the sort of like progression of technology with digital cameras and filters and the iPhone and all this stuff, did it hurt your business personally, or did you? I mean, I saw it hurt other people's businesses, but like, is it something that you saw as a negative thing, that like people could just throw a filter on and project something that you learned in school, how to do lighting and all that other shit, and like, you know, take a real fucking photograph? Did it affect you at all? And like, what was your view on it?
You know, I really don't give a crap. I don't think it professionally. I mean, who knows? I think yeah, you know, it definitely hurt or affected the industry because it flooded in the 90s and the 2000s before iPhones. There was, you know, in New York City there was as many photographers as there were musicians, and only a handful of them were getting paid. You know, so as far as I'm concerned, I don't give a crap. Like I want to encourage people to find their creative outlet and go with it, you know. I'm fascinated with folks or found talent that didn't know they were good photographers before an iPhone. I think that's interesting, you know, like wow, like you would never have thought to pick up a camera until, you know, these iPhones take great pictures, you know. So it's, you know, I know some, you know, I have some friends that really learned to shine through digital photography, and they're great. They're taking great pictures now that they move forward and got real equipment, real cameras. But you know, like the you know, like yeah, I mean with anything, you know, like if it never happened, you know, and if the market wasn't flooded with photographers, rates might be better because would be less people taking less money, you know.
Right.
But you know. But whatever, it's fucking life, you know. Just deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just interesting to me. Like again, like I began to have a lot of sympathy for the people who were like, yeah, I went to fucking school for photography, like Skirty, Squishamang, fucking, you know, I think Nathaniel Shannon went as well. Like, and it's like, you know, it was already hard to get paid as a photographer. Like,
yeah,
it's a total fucking hustle job, and you know, like throw all this shit on top of it, and it's like, Jesus Christ, you know. And I really feel like, in the same way music is a labor of love, photography is absolutely a labor of love. And you know, like you were saying that the digital photography and stuff, like it gave people who had an eye and didn't know a vehicle to sort of like develop that. The same thing goes for music, where, you know, it's like it's so easy through using like loops and stuff. Like you don't have to play an instrument to write a song.
Yeah.
And I think it had the same effect, but it also cheapens it in a lot of ways, you know.
Yeah.
Which you know is a whole other conversation. But I mean, you obviously haven't really been terribly affected by it. I mean, I'm sure you felt a little bit of it, but let's get into the tintype thing, because the tintype thing is so unique, so interesting. You hustle with it, standing on the streets in fucking New York City, asking people if they, charging people for tintypes. Explain what tintype is. Actually, I think my wife just bought a tintype from you. Yeah, a picture of flowers.
Oh, I gave it to her.
Oh, you gave it to her. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. All right. Well, I just saw it, I saw it in her office. It like came out of nowhere, and I was like,
Yeah, she gave me some flowers to photograph. I was like, oh, give me some beautiful flowers, and then I sent her some because I was just experimenting with some still life stuff.
Oh, awesome! Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
But
Thank you.
So explain tintype. Explain how you got into it, and like what you're looking to do with it. I mean, yeah, for anybody, explain it because I'm going to do a shit job of explaining it. So go for it.
All right. I'll keep this as short as possible. Tintype is keep it long. Dude, I can talk for hours, man. Well, I'll give you the quick story, and if you want me to elaborate, say, hey, tell me more about that shit, all right? A tintype is a way photography was made in the 1850s through. That was like the main top of the line technology from the Civil War were made with the wet plate collodion tintype process. Wet plate collodion is processed, and with that process you make tintypes or ambrotypes. Any case, it's a handmade photography process that is very, very labor intensive. It's called wet plate because you have to create you have to every single one of them is made one at a time in a portable darkroom, and it's called wet plate because the plate has to stay wet. So you prepare it, you shoot it, you develop it, and if the plate out, it will no longer be sensitive. So that's why it's called wet plate collodion. Does that make sense?
Got it. Yeah. So is it a big?
Got it. So
is it a big camera? Is it like?
Yeah, it can be a small camera. Technically, you could convert any film camera to shoot wet plate. But the bigger camera you use, the bigger the image, because it's all one-to-one. Like you put it into the back of the camera, and that's what it is. It's like think of it as like a Polaroid. Like if you shoot a Polaroid, it's the size of the material, the substrate that's inside the camera is what you're getting back, because you're not actually printing it. It's made on the plate. So if you put a 5x7 plate in the back of the camera has to be big enough to accommodate 5x7 plates, so you can have a bigger camera.
So let me ask you this: did you search out a tintype camera? Like, was that something you were interested in, and you're like?
Well, how it happened was what brought me to tintype photography was my then girlfriend, my wife. We were at a Renaissance fair, probably 11 or 12 years ago, and
yes,
and yeah, and there was a guy dressed up as a pirate, because Pirates of the Caribbean were big back then. So there's a guy dressed up as a pirate making tintypes, and I knew what a tintype was, but I had no idea what the process was. I didn't know you needed a darkroom. I didn't know, I just knew what a tintype was. I had no idea about any of it. And man, I was so here I am thinking I knew everything, about photography, and I'm like, what the fuck is this guy doing? And I didn't get closer than 10 feet. I just kind of circled his tent, like creep. What are you doing, man? Fuck. And I was just so weirded out by it. So I went home and I Googled it, and I was fascinated, and I started reading about it. And I was like, oh man, that's a lot of work. And it put it in the back of my head, and it actually took a digital camera filter that came out. Remember Hipstamatic? Remember that app thing?
Yeah, I had it. Yeah.
Yeah. They came out with their wet plate lens. You could buy different lenses for it. Mm-hmm. And I was like, screw it, I'm gonna fucking do it. I was like, it took that little digital app that said, I'm gonna do it for real. And then actually today, Facebook told me today is the 8th year anniversary of the first tintype I've ever made. So wow. Yeah, so today I made a tintype in my backyard 8 years ago, the first time. So yeah, it's something I fell in love with. It's totally a labor of love. You have to love it to do it because it requires a lot of pre-production and post-production work. If you don't shoot for a while, the chemicals are going to be pissed at you. If you need new chemicals, they all have to be mixed from scratch. There's just always something to be done with it.
I mean, it seems like a fascinating, like how long did they do that for? Like, so you said they used it in the Civil War, which is obvious if you see any Civil War pictures.
Yeah.
But I only know that because I'm familiar with your pictures. So, I mean, it's like so from begin, and this is all very interesting to me because you said like the reason you fell in love with photography is because you fell in love with the darkroom. And this is very labor intensive as far as development goes. So, so let's say you're like taking a picture, you're in Soho on the street, you take the picture. What happens next?
I take the picture, I have to jump into my portable darkroom, and I develop the plate, and then you see it inside a few minutes. And then from there, but there's a step before you take the picture. I have to go to the darkroom and I pour the plate and I sensitize it in the darkroom. While the plate is sensitizing the darkroom, I'll compose the camera, set up the portrait, fix my lighting and stuff like that. Then I'll jump in the darkroom. The plate has been sensitized at that point. I load it into a plate holder. I go back to the camera. I focus the camera, make sure everyone is squared up and looking good. Take the picture, go back in the darkroom, develop it, stop it, and then fix it. And the person sees it. Oh, I love it. Oh, I hate it. Usually they love it. And then from there, I have to wash it through a series of bath waters because I don't have running water in the street. And the image also has to be dried over a flame and then varnished because the image is made out of silver, so it'll tarnish over time. So every plate has to be sealed with a natural varnish. So then I have to varnish it. So it's labor. Like if I was just to take your picture in Soho, you would see your picture. Like if we didn't, because we'll talk a lot, but if we didn't talk in chit chat, like I could take your image, you would see your image inside 5 minutes, and you'd be done. And then I would tell you to come back in, if I didn't have another customer, like maybe another 20 to 25 minutes after for me to deal with the post-production.
So all right. So the camera that you have, what year is it from?
My camera is about 80 years old, 80 to 85 years old.
And does it take a lot of upkeep? Is it like like playing a
No.
Mellotron or like?
No, it's funny. I've had this camera for about 7 years now, and I just for the first time said, "Oh, you know what I've never done? I've never cleaned and oiled this fucking camera. It's wooden." So I was like, you know what? Let me sit down, and I cleaned and oiled it up. Because like I did put a lot of wear and tear on it, but wood dries up after time. So it's like So it looks nice now. I mean, it's beat up and stuff, but you don't really need to do. I mean, you do have to be careful because you're dealing with silver nitrate, which is corrosive. So some of that silver nitrate can leak into the back of the camera. So you just have to be careful, just to kind of like wipe that up and keep that clear so the wood doesn't rot.
Right. Are the plates expensive or like where do you find a plate for a tintype?
The tintype plates actually come from a trophy supply house. So it's trophy tin. So when you got you know what I'm talking about. Like your name's inscribed on a piece of black lacquered aluminum. That's what it is. Yeah.
Oh,
that's
shit.
what it is. So
wow.
It cost me about maybe 50 cents per 5x7 tintype. But I buy them, in bulk. So I have to, drop like $300, every few months, and I have to cut it up with a paper cutter and stuff like that. There's several suppliers around the country who specialize in supplying for wet plate photographers. Mom and pop operations.
Yeah.
So you could get them pre-cut from any one of these suppliers. So there's like one in upstate New York. There's one in LA, there's one in New Mexico. There's a few places you can just get your stuff from.
So where can people see your stuff, like your tintype stuff, or as I know you have a store.
All my stuff is at Borucki.com. So you can navigate. You look at my portraits, my wet plate stuff, my tintype stuff. It's all there. It's on the menu. It's pretty easy to navigate. If you want to buy my stuff, you can go to the shop, You want to just look at my stuff, you can just poke around and look around. So
Just don't steal it. Yeah.
credit.
No,
Punk
so
rock. Fucking put it up.
you
Just give me credit.
are you so on a personal level, you live on a farm whereabouts?
I'm in New Egypt, New Jersey. So I'm near Six Flags Great Adventure.
Okay, so it's sort of like central South Jersey.
Yeah,
Exit 7.
mathematically,
Exit
yeah,
6.
yeah. Mathematically, I'm square center state. A
Oh,
little
okay.
weird tidbit. When I moved to New Egypt, like we moved here for the house, we didn't know the town. It's an ass backwards town, very conservative. Um, when we moved here, we was like, wow, New Egypt. What the fuck is this place? Whatever. We love the house. We got some land. And I Googled it, New Egypt. They named it New Egypt because it's the center of New Jersey. And I guess Egypt was the center of the world. So therefore, New Egypt, or the new center of New Jersey. I don't know. Makes no sense. It's really corny and hokey. The
Yeah.
freaking local ambulance has like racist characters of Egyptian people on the side of it on camels.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm dead serious. It's like, what the hell is going on here?
You got
Anytime.
You got a bunch of animals and shit, and like
We do. We got
and 8,000 children.
we have, yes, well, we have a lot of adult children now. We have a bunch of animals. We have goats, chickens, pigs, loads of cats, a freaking elderly dog. Kids ranging in the age of 6 through 2022. She moved to Seattle. So yeah, there's a lot of kids. I have 2 kids with my wife and 3 from her previous. They're older, so they're like 17 going on 18. The one just turned 21, so I can send him to the liquor store now. and Winona, who just moved to Seattle with her boyfriend. She's a scientist, basically. And they're all brilliant. They're all creative. They're all musicians. You know, Calvin, the 21-year-old, he basically through COVID, he taught himself freaking 3D animation, like legit, like taught himself, and is working right now on projects like freelance work in his bedroom. Yeah, like he's just like, I'm gonna learn fucking 3D animation. He just taught himself it.
Christ almighty! I can't even play Minecraft with my daughter.
I know, I can't either. So yeah, so he's awesome, and his girlfriend, you know, from COVID also moved in, so she's awesome too. So we have a new daughter. So it's like I don't know how many kids we have. We have a lot of kids here. So
yeah, I mean, it sounds like a constant party. Fucking
yeah.
You know, I don't know what it's like to have older kids. So you know, I know having younger kids is very time consuming.
Yeah,
to say the least. Especially during COVID, it's been fucking rough. Yeah, how have you been doing during this whole thing? What do you guys? I mean, I know your wife does she wrote a book, right?
Yes,
on baby
she's doing
yoga.
amazing. She's starting her own publishing company. She basically left Hay House, which is a pretty big freaking publishing company in the world of health and fitness. And she started her own. She started with self-publishing. I'm in her studio right now, which is also my photo studio. It's more her studio now. You know how. Yeah, she self-published children's books that she started making Zara children's books, and then she published another woman's children's book, and now she's starting a new publishing company and legit is going full force on it. Has a bunch
That's
of
freaking amazing. Dude,
adult authors. Yeah,
she's like Superwoman.
She is Superwoman.
It's kind of like I'm so God, do I just drink too much and I can't get anything done? I mean,
I know. I'm like, what am I doing? I'm taking pictures like a jerk. I'm like, what am I doing? What are you? Oh God, Yeah, she's incredible.
Slow the fuck down. Stop doing so goddamn much. How many kids do you have? Fucking hell.
We're lucky men, Arthur Shepard. We're lucky men to have good women.
Oh no, yeah, totally, absolutely. It's great, and I'm really happy, that you guys have been able to weather this storm and and deal with all this shit. You know, it's so somebody asked a question. They would love to hear about the album covers you have made, which of course, one of them would be, or two of them would be Indecision.
Yeah.
A couple of Millhouse covers. Yeah. Which I might have to talk to you about soon, regarding reissuing.
Yeah.
But let's talk about some of the album covers you've done, because there are folks out there that are interested in. I personally love the album covers you did.
Thank you, sir. Well, yeah, it was that was something that I loved doing, and specifically you mentioned Indecision and Millhouse at that time. Those images, like let's say for instance, oh, what was the first Indecision?
Not Unorthodox.
Yeah, it's Unorthodox.
Yeah, Unorthodox. All right.
Yeah. That was let's say that was made with Polaroid film, and it was kind of a layered effect of trying to make this relatively quickly. When you could shoot old-fashioned Polaroid, not necessarily, you can't even get Polaroid anymore anyway, but earlier Polaroid, you were able to do these, what they would call Polaroid transfer or an emulsion lift. So you would shoot the Polaroid in your camera, and you'd pull it out through the rollers. What happens with your, you point and shoot Polaroid camera, it pushes it through rollers. So you pull it through those rollers, and it has to process for about 60 minutes to 90 seconds, not 60 seconds to 90 seconds. But before it would process all the way through, hey, Bagel! I can't see. Oh yeah, you guys are the FBI watch list? Really? That's awesome. Anyway, there's Steve. So anyway, you'd pull the you put the Polaroid through the rollers, and then you'd pull it apart before it was finished processing. Then I would take the Polaroid negative essentially and put it down in some watercolor paper, and I would have to work some magic. But then that image would when I peel it apart, that image would transfer and adhere to the Polaroid or the the paper, the watercolor paper, and I would do that several times. And I would cut them up with X-Acto knives, and I would overlay them. I would stack other Polaroid images on top. So what's up, Mike? So it was.
Was it ever digitized, or was it all just physical?
It got digitized once. It got digitized for Steve. I know you're listening. I'm sorry. I can always remember album titles.
The next one.
Release the Cure. Release the Cure, and that was digitized as well as the EP with Artie, To Live and Die in New York. That was digitized also. Simply because that was a new tool in my hands. Like I didn't have that before. I didn't know how to turn on a computer when I did Unorthodox. I literally
it's super interesting because without giving too much away, I've been dealing with a lot of this stuff. Dealing with Pablos from Rec Age about shit, and it was interesting because in talking about the record covers, the recordings were one thing, but the record covers were a whole nother ballgame. And it's like, shit. Because I know Jeremy and Christy, who used to do the layouts for most of the stuff for Rec Age and for Exit, you did your own, but he used Quark back then.
Yeah, it's an awful program.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. But I don't know much about it, but he was my roommate in college, so I would watch him use it. But it's just interesting to me. Like when I never sat through the process of how a record was laid out back then, and it seems like just what you explained. It's like, Jesus Christ, just for you to come up with the idea, make the idea happen. It's a fucking art project, and then to make it, to get it into record format, and then to get it printed. It's fascinating to me. That cover of Unorthodox is fucking great. It's got the two kids on it, and it's sort of like collage-y. Like fucking really, really cool. I like Release the Cure as well. I was always very excited when I found out you were going to do a record for Exit. But yeah, I mean, it's so. What did you do? Any others besides Indecision and Millhouse, or like after that?
From back then, let's see. Oh yeah, actually, let's see. From Exit, I also did uh, uh
Oh,
yes,
Termites and a Smile.
Termites.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I was
Yeah. Yeah.
thinking of. Sons of Abraham.
Yeah.
Um, I did some Surfer Ghost 7 inches. I did the CR album cover. Yeah, the LP, the John Lisa LP.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Okay. Do you still have that Sons of Abraham on digital, by the way?
On digital? What do you mean?
Do you still have like a file or a disc or anything?
I do. I have scans of it all, actually.
Yes.
Oh, you're reissuing that stuff?
I don't know. Maybe.
Oh,
Those
yeah,
guys are never
I have all that stuff.
They're never going to agree to reissue anything. So I mean, but, yeah.
Yeah, I have all that stuff. If you're working on reissuing that stuff, yeah. I didn't lose anything. I'm a hoarder, you know. Yeah, I'm a hoarder. Yeah, man, I don't know. Like, there's the album covers I was really pushing a lot back then. But I guess through the 2000s, it kind of trailed off. Like, I did some album covers. I did album covers for, um, I did a Movie Life album cover, 40-hour train ride back from Penn. Like, I think I just turned 18 the other day. I saw Vinny posted that. That was a pretty fun one. That was digital also. I did Atreyu covers. I did, a bunch of things here and there. You know, I did one of the Thursday EPs.
Do you have any favorites?
I would say the Unorthodox was my favorite, and Most Precious Blood. You know, Our Lady of Annihilation. You know, that was a fun one.
Yeah, you're sticking South Brooklyn there. So one last question.
Yeah.
What is there, and can you say? I mean, I know this is going to be an impossible fucking question to answer, but do you have a favorite photograph you've taken?
Favorite photograph that I have taken? I can't say. Yeah, I could tell you. I have favorite photographs I've taken through periods of time, kind of like albums. You know, like I would say, like there was like a picture I really loved for like 5 or 6 years, and then there'd be another one. But all time, I don't think I would be able to nail that down to.
No, that's fair enough. And have you ever photographed Paul McCartney?
No, I have not.
Damn it! I'm so hoping you had. Who's the most famous person you photographed? Like hands down, the most famous person you photographed?
Probably Ron Wood.
Oh wow! Did you do a tintype of him? You did.
Probably him. I didn't. No.
Because that would look crazy. My God.
No, yeah, no. I would guess. I guess you'd pop. But then again, half the times, honestly, Artie, I'm not shitting you. I don't know, levels of fame. Like I remember, like I went to shoot Lenny Kravitz for the first time. I knew he was famous, but I didn't realize how famous he was. It's like, dude, this is a fucking big deal. I'm like, yeah, it's cool. Like, no, really. I'm like, all right, whatever. We're just taking some goddamn pictures. So I don't usually know the level. I mean, Metallica also, they're pretty fucking famous, but are they more famous than Ron Wood? Maybe?
No, I mean, dude, Ron Wood. It's like the Faces are one of my favorite bands ever, and I just imagine a close-up tintype of Ron Wood and like his fucking face. It's like how insane that would look.
Oh, it would have been incredible. I did it in Detroit, so it wasn't even a realm of possibility. So I wouldn't have been able to travel with the equipment.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Also, yeah.
Well, I'm gonna wrap it. We're at an hour. And
yeah, man.
I want to thank you for doing this for me. With me.
Thanks for having me, man. It was a lot of fun.
Great to catch up, and most love to your family, and fucking keep kicking ass, dude.
Yeah, you too, brother. I hope to see you in the real world soon.
Absolutely, I hope so too. All right, take care, bro.
All right, later, people.